Hey everyone, today we got a new beta, and that beta is the 1.16.0.59 beta. And it is a rather small beta, but it still has enough worthwhile changes to be worth covering. And in my opinion, there are more bad changes than good changes, but they are working on it, and it's going to be quite a long time until 1.16 releases, so I'm pretty sure that they can get most of the bug fixes in. And yeah, I will be covering them and discussing them a little as well. So let's get into it. So first of all, they made some changes with world generation. I'm not really too interested in that, so I'm not going to cover it, but if you do have interest in that, I'm pretty sure that there are lots of update overviews on YouTube that do cover it. So, since we're in the Basalt Delta already, we might first cover the issue that was present with Basalt crafting into polished Basalt. So the problem was that when you crafted 4 Basalt into polished Basalt, you would only get 1 polished Basalt. And that was because the polished Basalt was first only introduced to Bedrock Edition, and well, it wasn't present in Java Edition yet. And that's why the crafting recipes weren't really on par when it came out on the Java edition. But now, as you can see, you do get 4 polished basalt for every 4 basalt, and they also added it to the stonecutter. Now I know that isn't a very technical change, but I think it's still worth covering. Now the next changes are relating to ores. And the first change is that the fortune enchantment works again, supposedly. So if we just mine those 8 diamond ore, we of course get 8 diamonds because we have no enchantment on. But if we mine this right now, as you can see, we do get more than 1 diamond per ore. And well, that's pretty good. That means that the fortune enchant works again. We got 23 diamonds out of 8 ore, which is pretty good. And the second change is that gold ore can be smelted in furnaces and blast furnaces again. I have no idea why this was broken in previous updates, but well, it's good to note that it is fixed. In the previous beta, you might remember that there wasn't a Zoglin spawn egg in the creative inventory, but now we do have one. Now the next change marked in the changelog is that piglins will supposedly drop their gold ingot when they are admiring it and when they are one shot. And as you can see, it did not drop it. It does sometimes drop it, but not 100% of the time. And well, that is quite concerning, because that means that we cannot make bartering scam machines or whatnot. Well, that's not really the point, but you know, it should always drop their gold ingot, and sometimes it just gets consumed, and yeah, why is it not picking it up? Whatever. Sometimes it just gets consumed, and it does not get returned when you one-shot the pigman. Now another smaller but useful change is that they properly fixed the collision and hitbox of the hopper. Now right now it looks like it is just like it has always been. As you can see, the outline shows a full block, and that was an issue. But if we just get some blocks, put it in the air and stand under it, and we can see that we can indeed enter this space. And that is indeed a fixed collision box of the hopper. Now the hitbox is fixed as well. As you can see, we can access the chest if we look from right here. So while technically the hitbox is fixed, it still shows the full outline when you actually look at the part of the hitbox where it should actually, well, be hit. And it is kind of confusing, but it is a fix, and complaining about this is kind of a nitpick. So that's a pretty good fix in my opinion. This was bothering me for quite a long time, but now it's fixed. Now another change in the changelog that I read about and was quite happy when I saw it is that huge fungi should not be able to replace most blocks anymore. And well, that's pretty good. That's a quite weird looking one. Let's get another one just as an example. So as you can see, they do look pretty beautiful, but when we put a block above it, let's say like that, okay, that replaced it apparently, but that just proves my point. It is not a consistent change. For example, with the Bedrock, yes, of course it works. We can also use something like, let's say, packed ice or whatnot. And let's do that, and as you can see, it does not get replaced. And that is pretty good, because that also means we can use dispensers to grow these, so we can have one right here. And I did test it, the larger logs, they will not replace this dispenser right here, and it means that we can keep on growing more fungi. But the issue, of course, that you saw is that the fix apparently only applies to full blocks. So if we have some packed ice, of course it will not get replaced. But if we have some glass, and more importantly, if we have some pistons, so we can just have that, they will apparently all get replaced, and that is not very fortunate that they all go away. So yeah, of course pistons, because they don't seem to be full blocks in a sense. You can waterlock them, and you can do other stuff with it, and glass blocks of course are transparent. So it definitely is a step in the right direction. Dispensers not getting deleted anymore by these is pretty good. That means we are very close to being able to farm them, but that both the stem and that the nether wart blocks, or rather the leaves, you can call them the leaves I guess, that those will replace pistons and transparent blocks and whatnot. That is quite a big issue for farming them and a variety of other applications. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that fixed. So the biggest change in this update, and a change that severely cuts the rates of mob farms, is a change to how mobs are handled that spawn in caves. So I'm just going to very briefly explain to you how mob spawning works. It is not very precise, but you should be able to understand it. So, mob spawning works separated into two caps. There is the surface cap, so basically just mobs that spawn on the surface, and there is the cave cap. And cave cap does not refer to a certain Y level, it just means that the mobs spawn under a solid block. There was another mechanic that allowed us to increase mob farm rates, and that is that certain blocks could transfer the mob spawn attempts from the surface spawns down one layer. And that is especially important because that means that most mob farms would utilize both caps. They would utilize both the surface cap and the cave cap. And by utilizing both caps, you can increase the rates because more mobs will be able to be alive at the same time, and of course you will get more spawn attempts. And right here we did it with slabs. Slabs are able, or used to be able, to transfer surface spawns through solid blocks. And if you don't know, mob spawns in Bedrock Edition work from top to down, and they check on every X and Z coordinate. Now your question probably is, how severely does this affect mob farms? Now first of all, we already have the despawning change, which pretty much kills off fall damage based mob farms, unless you somehow adjust the AFK spot, which will also hurt the rates, because you might get closer to the ground and spawn more mobs, or you will have mobs falling on you and exploding, which is of course not very fun. But ignoring that despawning change, this new change to how surface mobs are handled does severely cut rates of mob farms, especially general mob farms. Creeper only farms like this one are not affected as much because the weight for creeper spawning is not as high on the surface as in caves. So that means for the same amount of mobs that spawn on the surface and in caves, there will be more creepers in the caves. It will still decrease the rates though for a creeper only farm because, well, you can only have the cave cap now, but it will not be as dramatic as for a general mob farm. For a general mob farm, the rates are cut pretty bad. They might even be cut in half depending on which design is used and well, other factors that I'm not going to go into detail. I'll let the experts handle it. But yeah, no matter the mob farm, if it uses this mechanic, it will decrease the rates. And if you are not using it already, then you have been missing out on some pretty good rates for a while. Now I'm not sure if this is a change that is to prepare for more spawning changes. Personally, I don't believe that those are still coming or that they are going to be severe enough to require this, but even though this change does seem to make the spawning mechanics more consistent in a sense that you can understand them better, it is a significant nerf to existing mob farms. And I hope that they do indeed bring something new to the table that will improve mob farming as we know it. Not really necessarily change it completely or something like that, but in my opinion it should be something that justifies this change. And of course you have to consider that this mechanic of transferring surface spawns through solid blocks was not really detrimental at all. So yeah, that's something to consider. And of course I hope that this change is justified, because of course we all want decent mob farms, we don't need the best of the best, but well, we have been living well enough with the existing ones, and making them worse is not really all that nice. But well, that's it from me. If you have more interest in the other changes from the beta, they are not very interesting. You can read them in the changelog that I linked in the description. Make sure to also vote for the bug reports that I've linked in the description. And of course, if you agree with them, if you don't, then you can just leave them sitting. And well, make sure to subscribe. I have more interesting stuff like this on my channel. And I would very much appreciate your support. That being said, bye.